welcome to this ET Now special. I'm Nayanthara Rai, working from home. On the occasion of Teachers' Day, I have a very special guest with me. She's still a teacher and she also runs the world's most valuable edtech startup, Byju's. Joining me is the co-founder, Divya Gokulnath. Divya, thank you so much for joining us here on ET Now. We really appreciate it. The first question I have to ask you is, and it's something that I really personally, at a personal level, want to know, and I'm sure it's a story that will inspire many others that are tuning in. You're still a teacher, you're still true to the core values when it comes to teaching, to the person that you were, and you still run a decacorn, Byju's, the world's most valuable startup. How do you don these two hats?
Nayanthara, I always say I'm a teacher first and then everything else after that, because that's always been my first passion, my first love, first job. Not just me, even for Byju, even for our core team. I think that's the strength of all of us at the core team. We're very close to the DNA of our product, which is largely driven by our teachers. And I think being a teacher first has helped me understand the pulse of our students, which in turn has positively influenced, impacted, and helped actually shape the product. So it not just the product, right? It helped us shape Byju's in a way, and a company which is purely built by passion, the desire to create something impactful that will help children become lifelong learners. So I think it all stems from the fact that it's easy to start a mission-driven company because education is close to everybody, but it's very hard to stay mission-driven. So the single core purpose of making students fall in love with learning has unified all of us at the core team, all of us across teams by a common thread, and motivated all of us to put our best step forward. And I think what makes us stay focused at all times on our goal is a realization that we're creating an impact in somebody's life. Also being hands-on, you mentioned that I'm a teacher even today. Yes, and that's true, because being hands-on helps experiment fast, fail small, fail quickly, realize your mistakes, and then actually eventually win big. So, and it's especially important in a segment like ours because it's a new segment. There is no playbook for successes. It's not a copy paste model. You need to write your own rule book. You need to set your own benchmarks. You need to continuously positively disrupt yourself, not be afraid of what's happening and what steps you're going to take, and take big bold steps. So I think our initial value system has never really changed, but the ways we have adapted and adopted to achieve it, we've been very, very flexible on that. Just to give you an example, prior to 2015, we were 100% offline, we were 100% services. But post 2015, when we launched our app, we are 100% online, we are 100% product today. And the advantage of doing that is that we have 64 million students learning with us across the country. So I think it's all of these help, and eventually it's not about creating a $1 billion company. Like, a lot of people say, oh, you're the world's largest edtech company and all of that, but the real satisfaction comes from the fact that you're able to fuel a billion dreams, and you're able to create an impact and change the way people think and learn.
Wow, that's really humbling to hear what you've just had to say, Divya. And if I could just build upon that, where you say that it's not about creating a $1 billion company, it's a $10 billion company. But having said that, what I found very fascinating is you're talking like a teacher and an entrepreneur. And that's exactly what you are, right? Rolled into one. There is no playbook. You're writing the rule book for yourself. And I have to ask you this one question. How do you divide your time? I'm sure we can learn something about productivity from you. You're a teacher first, you're also a full-time entrepreneur, and I'm sure you make out time for your family as well. How do you do it all and stay ahead of the curve and upskill?
So I think it's, thinking big is always part of the game, but then it's also important to be able to execute it and plan to execute it, right? So it's important to have life goals and yearly goals, but I think what's important is that you break that down into monthly goals, weekly goals, and daily goals. And I'm a planner, so I'd like to have my day planned, and that way, because with schools, most of the schools running their programs online, even my son learns from home. So it is more important, and it's a little more difficult to create boundaries when you're at home, because you need to work, you also need to be with family. But I think if you can set up artificial boundaries for yourself, if you cut out time and stipulate the hours of the day for various things that you need to do, it's actually possible.
Okay. Now, Divya, we also got you on the occasion of Teachers' Day. You and your husband will, of course, be role models. But if I look at the entire top leadership of Byju's, and you alluded to this, they're all teachers. First, I would imagine, like you said. Does that set you apart? And is there a big lesson in that you can follow your passion, you can stay true to your first choice in career, and at the same time build a company?
Yes, I think, yes, definitely, because you don't define your passion, right? You let your passion define you. And all of us are teachers because we love being teachers. And I think that, and if you enjoy what you do, you will end up doing it in a really good way. So I think entrepreneurship is all about that, right? You don't start up for the sake of starting up. You start up because you're addressing a core need in society. Two, you're doing the best that you can do to address that need, and you're putting in your best efforts and your strong areas to make that happen. So when all of that happens and it comes together, that's when it sets you apart. And like you said, the core team, and I think our biggest strength is that all of us are here from the time that we started. We are all here today, and we're all bound by the same passion that we were bound by when we started. It's just that we've all adopted different routes to achieve it, and we've been fixated on our mission but flexible on our execution. So I think that's where it lies.
The other thing I have to ask you, Divya, is coming from the community and now changing the rules of the game. We speak about it very often, but we don't see a change. Teachers who are responsible for shaping our children's way of thinking, value system, the custodians of their education, have never traditionally been monetarily rewarded the way they deserve to be. Will COVID-19 and the EdTech boom change that? Because it's only fair, right, that they should be compensated and rewarded the way they deserve to be.
Yes, in fact, I'm expecting the golden age of teachers to come back. Okay, teaching is a very, very satisfying job, but highly underappreciated, because the satisfaction of teaching students and seeing them achieve success is like none other, especially with online learning, as teachers are able to positively impact a much larger set of students, and it's geography agnostic, right? So I think India is creating software professionals for the world. Soon we will create teachers for the world. And let me give you an example. The company that we recently acquired, White Hat Junior, it has about 7,000 teachers. You know one thing, they're all women. Okay, they're all women, and they are now teachers by choice, and we are creating high quality, high paying teaching jobs and enabling so many women professionals to come back and teach. Because you have if I'm not wrong, about 51% of our graduates are women, but only we have 23% of them in the workforce. So just look at the opportunity that lies over here, right? The opportunity is immense to create so many teaching jobs, not just for India, but for the world.
Wow, that's really something that White Hat Juniors, all their teachers are women. And in fact, Divya, I wanted to ask you this one question. I know we're getting you on Teachers' Day, but it would be incomplete if I don't ask you about the acquisition of White Hat Junior. It is something that the entire startup ecosystem is talking about. All the investors are talking about it. It's a very new startup acquired by Byju's. Look at the kind of exit that the founders have gotten and the direction that is being provided for its growth. Can you tell us a little bit about the integration and what your plans are with it?
So we've always acquired companies where we've seen a big fit in the product. So and like I said, right, our mission has always been to impact many more learners, and we aim to do that by consistently increasing our TAM, by adding more subjects, by adding more grades, and going into more geographies. And what White Hat Junior brought was expertise in a very crucial future skill, coding, and that also adds on to our TAM. So apart from adding a subject, it also plays a big role in the expansion of our international plan. So I think that way it completely fits, and the team is also amazing. So that's where I think it's like a jigsaw puzzle.
You said perhaps we're going to be in the golden, we're going to enter the golden age of teaching. So you think, more and more kids will grow up saying, I want to be a teacher, which, let's face it, recently hasn't been seen as something that they want to do. You don't see people who are really good or bright saying, I want to be teachers.
Yeah, so I always say that. So I'm a daughter of a doctor, and typically children of doctors become doctors, children of lawyers become lawyers, and all of that. I think we need to have, and this is actually requesting teachers again to encourage their children to actually become teachers, because the kind of mentorship, the kind of happiness which we can instill in children, and I know every teacher has actually experienced that. uh, uh, and it's an underrated profession, like I keep saying, but I think it's slowly changing, and I think online learning will play a role in changing that for good. But yes, there is definitely so much scope to bring up so many more youngsters. If we can bring this up as one of those golden professions which you would choose after your graduation, it would be so nice. And actually that's what's happening. Even if you look at White Hat, you have a lot of freshers. You have a good mix of fresher women who are joining back and teaching coding from home, and you have also a healthy mix of professionals who've gone and worked in multiple tech companies, and then they're teaching on the platform. So you have a very healthy mix of people who have tried out different professions and coming back, and you also have people who are freshers who are teaching.
Yeah. Okay, that's very encouraging to hear, because like we were also discussing earlier, it's time that teachers should also be rewarded, because they're the custodians of the future in a sense. Divya, you're a role model, and I want to ask you for advice to all those who are already teachers or thinking of being teachers part-time, paying it forward by following a passion whenever they have the spare time. What would be your advice to them? Because now more than ever, the teachers will also have to learn every day. They perhaps have to upskill themselves every day.
True. Children are actually digital natives, and as you go younger, they become more and more digital natives. I think technology has added so many generations between us and made generations, the whole definition of generations, even shorter. So I think for a teacher to be on par with digital age kids, who are all touch and go, and so digital savvy, with cutting edge knowledge and skills, it'll be nice if teachers can also empower themselves to with tech to make themselves better teachers. In fact, I think technology has made me a better teacher. And and we see that, right? Initially,
Okay.
maybe what did not happen in decades for edtech actually happened in months and weeks. We had so many stakeholders in education turn online almost overnight, and it's worked out well, because we've actually seen that a lot of core subjects like for example, math, science, social studies, all of these can actually be taught better, more effectively online with the help of technology. And I think teachers are evolving and learning from that, and empowering themselves to become better teachers. And I'm not saying that, see, teaching will be 100% online. I'm not saying that, right? There are a lot of things which can only be taught and learned offline, especially social skills and skills like empathy. It's always better to have people by your side to learn all of that. So teachers will continue to do that in the offline world, where they will inspire, motivate, mentor students to give their very best. So but it'll be kind of blended, so it helps that teachers are also digitally aware. So advice wise, all I would like to, maybe I would like to request teachers to inspire more students to come back and become teachers like them, because that will set the ecosystem going, to show them what a coveted profession this is, to show them what a satisfying profession this is. And that, I think that's one way, and I request all parents to encourage their children to become teachers.
So when you say all of this, Divya, and one sentence for me stood out in the answer right now, was that you don't think that teaching will always be 100% online. When schools do reopen, when kids start going back to the classrooms, I would imagine though that EdTech will stay and will be the new normal. And therefore, won't schools now have to also marry and figure out the curriculum along with EdTech?
Yes, and I think because the future of learning is neither 100% online nor 100% offline, it's kind of blended. So when I was, even last time when I was talking about the role of teacher, I was talking more about school teachers, right? So but there are a lot of skills and a lot of things which can be 100% online, like coding. Okay, so now that you're talking about schools, what I'm trying to say is even schools will, and I think they're realizing the benefits. Of course, it's it'll be an individual choice of a school, but I think the future of learning is going to be blended, where you have a nice mix of synchronous as well as asynchronous learning elements come together. You have the best of online learning and offline learning coming together, because that's when learning becomes so much more personalized, it becomes so much more meaningful, it becomes so much more effective. So in a way, I think a lot of institutions are already doing that. They're understanding that there are a lot of skills which can be taught online, but there are a lot of skills which will remain offline, which need to be continue to be taught offline.
I want to ask you one thing, Divya. How do you all choose teachers for Byju's? You must have done something right in the recruitment process as well, that you've been able to build this business, you've been able to build the models that has become world famous.
So, our teachers are all teachers by choice more than by experience, very frankly. Okay, so I think what drives them is the passion to teach. They badly want to teach. They love teaching. They love explaining things. You need to have great content knowledge, but you also need to know how to deliver it in such a way that you're able to keep the student engaged. And if you think about it, you're delivering to a camera most of the time, right? You don't even have students. You need to imagine students in front of you. You need to imagine the questions that they will have. You need to answer it in a way that they do not have any doubt at all. So it's a very different kind of a skill to teach online for us at Byju's, because you're talking about Byju's, where most of our lessons are to a camera, right? So I think it's largely driven by the fact that they want to create an impact. They have the passion for teaching. They have a knack for delivering it in an engaging manner that can keep a student onto the platform for a really long time and engaged as well. Because even if you look at the numbers, our engagement numbers have shot up to 100 minutes a day. And the most important thing is students are coming back almost every day to learn on the platform. So this actually shows how engaging it is. And it's not just about being engaging, right? The other number that we closely track is effectiveness. And how do we track effectiveness? It's through renewals. Because unless a student is benefiting from it, unless your teaching is effective, unless the learning outcomes can be seen, they're not going to renew again and again. And our annual renewal rates are at as high as 85%. So I think a teacher needs to drive all of this, while she or he is driving a lot of engagement, is able to hook the student onto the class. You also need to deliver it in a short, crisp, interesting format, which is also effective. So I think it's a combination of multiple things that need to come together.
So what do you guys do at Byju? So you first have this camera test, and you all then get together and design the curriculum, or you have responsibilities where certain teachers come up with their own curriculum? I'm asking out of curiosity because you have a very good renewal rate. You're talking about engagement of about 100 minutes. So you obviously got the model right.
So when we started out initially, when we started recording our videos for the app, at that point of time, the teacher used to do everything, right from the planning the script to practicing, making sure that it's coming out in the most effective manner and all of that. But today we have a 1,500 member research and development team. So we all have divided the roles. While we do have many teachers with us. Not everybody comes online and teaches. We have teachers designing the curriculum, creating the scripts in a way which is the most creative, effective, and gives the best examples, because you teach by examples. That's actually the best way to teach. And then we have a media team, which is also part of the research and development team, which brings the concepts to life once the teacher has delivered the script. So this is what I'm talking about, is Byju's the learning app. So today there are multiple wings, and behind, I think, almost every line that you see in a Byju's app video, there are at least 50 people who are behind it, across the team. So it's not a one person effort. What you finally see online, and I think that is the differentiator, right? The what you see on screen today is the thought, it's the mind, and it's the expertise of many people. So that's I think the differentiator.
Obviously 50 people behind every line, Divya. So, that's, like you said, a very strong R&D team on figuring out what's the best and most effective tool for kids to learn. So I just have to ask you this as well. When COVID-19 would have thrown up so many interesting trends. You have a captive audience. Classrooms are shut. Have you figured out what is also more effective, or what it is that children prefer versus what their parents prefer? Is it recorded lessons? Is it live lessons?
Yes. So, when I'll just give you a few numbers to just show you the traction for EdTech first, and that will set context for me to explain the need of students, especially during times like this. So, in the first 4 years since we launched our app, we got 40 million free students. But in the last 4 months, once we opened entire content, the last 4 months alone, we got 20 million new students. So 50% of the first 4 years base in the last 4 months. So it shows that more and more students are trying out online learning. And within this, what we did is the with UNESCO report showing that 1.3 billion kids are out of schools. The first thing we did is we opened the app, and then we realized that what students were missing was the scheduled kind of learning which a school gives you, right? And that is when we launched live classes on our platform. Now, if you ask me, it depends on the student. We have students who would come, self-learners would typically come to the app and learn on their own. But then there is also a segment of students who would like to have a teacher assigned to them at a specific time, much like how it happens in school. It's like a schedule-based learning, where they know that at this point of time during the day, if they come, the teacher is going to be there for them and take their class. That kind of learning also drives a lot of students, and eventually they will also fall in love with learning and start learning on their own. So I think it's both. The traction is similar, whether it is for a self-paced learning initially itself, where a student picks up the app and learns on their own, or it's where they look forward to scheduled online classes from the teacher, so they know at this point, at this time, there is this class which is going on, and I can go there, I can get my doubts cleared, I can understand the topic better, and then I can go back to the app and I can revise and get better at it.
Divya, I want to lean in on your expertise and also ask you one question, which is that given this age, this fast-paced world, the digital world, the era of exams and the way exams are conducted, one does feel it's redundant, but do you think it's going to just naturally get phased out? Or, for that you might need the government's help. But like you correctly pointed out, you can revise, you can take quizzes, you can do all of that. So just this concept of quarterly exams, final year exams, do they even make sense in today's day and age?
So I think if students don't look at exams in an end to itself, but just as a milestone where you can measure your learning, it will just become a path on the way which you jump over and cross. Because if you don't have a way to measure yourself, how would you know how you will get better at something? That's where tests become important. That is where it's important to assess how much you have learned, so that you know how much you know. Now, I'm not debating whether it's compulsory or not, but what I'm trying to say is it's not a bad to have, because it's something that shows you how much you have learned and how much more you can learn, so that you can get even better.
I'm going to conclude this interview because it's the occasion of Teachers' Day. Divya, you're a daughter of a doctor. When did you know that you were going to become a teacher?
I think I knew I was going to become a teacher the first time I went into a class of 100 students who were just 3 to 4 years younger than me. I ended up wearing a sari because I needed to look a lot older than them. And when I taught them, and I think it's the faith that Byju had in me, that I was his student, so I think he had a lot of faith and confidence. I think he saw the talent that I could teach before I saw it in myself. And when I went and I spoke, and I saw the kind of feedback that I got, and I saw the impact that it created. I kind of made up my mind that this is something that I would love to do. Of course, I didn't know where it's going to be headed. Teaching led on to something else, and today also we are all, like I said, right, we're all core at our core. All of us are teachers. You never decide that. These are things where which just happens on its own, because we don't define our passion, we let our passion define us. So I think it's a chicken and egg question. Because education is like that, right? It's a sector where you can create a double impact, where you do good, you'll end up doing well. You do well, you'll end up doing good. So,
and you have certainly disrupted this space, and I actually feel like you've taught me a lot during this interview, and I'd really like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and giving ET Now this interview. Here's wishing you and the entire team all the very best. And happy Teachers' Day.
Thanks a lot.